Today, I'm going to be sharing with you an update on our 2023 Model X. This is, of course, the refresh Model X. And because of recent price changes, many of you are considering getting a Model X. Now, we've had ours for right at about 6 months now, almost 10,000 miles, and I've got quite a bit of an update for you today, just to give you a feel for it's going to be great taking it off the lot, but how's it going to fare over time? Now, of course, this is a short-term overview of the car, but even then, there's enough information for me to share with you to give you an idea of what you should expect to own a refresh Model X. As it sits right now, 6 months later, we have 9,125 miles. We have consumed 3,382 kilowatt hours and averaged 371 watt hour per mile. Now in our Model Y, we've averaged about 318 watt hour per mile across 2 years, 50,000 miles, and that 318 represents about a 16% more efficient consumption rate in the Model Y as compared to the Model X. It's not really a huge hit when you consider the fact of how much this car weighs, how much additional space you get for it, and the fact that that includes having a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack instead of an 82. So there's actually quite a bit more usable range in this Model X than there is in the Model Y. Now, of course, it is rated at a higher range than the Model Y. However, because we have the larger 22-inch wheels, we're actually rated at 330, and the Model Y with the standard Gemini wheels is also rated at 330 miles. Of that 3,382 kilowatt hours we've consumed, 63% of that was with home charging and 33% at superchargers, and then 4% other locations, which included hotels or public chargers that were no cost to me. Doing the math here, at 13 cents a kilowatt hour, we are talking $277 from home charging, $290 supercharging at 26 cents average, and of course free for the other charging. That means we spent $567 across 9,125 miles, or 6.2 cents per mile. Now, that in itself is pretty impressive. And what would that look like compared to a gas version of something like this? Well, the Audi Q7 is the first vehicle that comes to mind, at least in my mind. And although the highest performance spec they have is a second slower 0 to 60, it's still relatively comparable. Price is about the same, size is about the same, just a little bit less performance. Let's take a look at that and compare how much it would have cost for that same 9,000 miles. The Q755 averages 22 miles per gallon combined. At 9,125 miles, that's 415 gallons. And if you average the national premium gas price since that time, we're talking $4.25 a gallon, or $1,763, or 19.3 cents per mile. So that's $1,200 essentially in savings of electricity versus gas. Now, there are other costs involved, and you should not be looking at a Model X if you're trying to just save money, but it is an important piece to talk about because the cost of operating an electric vehicle is significantly less than it is in a gas car. Essentially, if you extrapolate that out, you're looking at about $2,000 a year for 15,000 miles a year in driving. So that will actually add up over time to be some pretty significant savings. Now, that of course does not include other savings in maintenance costs of the vehicle, but we'll get into all of that in a little bit. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is probably the reason why you are all here. It was not that long ago that I made the statement that if they stripped some options out and were able to get the price under $80,000, it would then qualify for the tax credit, and it would be quite a deal. Here we are today, and in fact, it does qualify for the $7,500 tax credit. When we bought this car, it was $99,990 starting price, $1,500 for black, $5,500 for the 22-inch wheels, $6,500 for the 6-seat configuration, for a total of $113,490. Total destination fee of $1,390 and an order fee of $250, plus a discount at the time of $5,670 brings us to $109,460. Now, this same vehicle today starts at $79,990. There is no cost for any of the paint colors. It's still $5,500 for the wheels and $6,500 for the 6-seat configuration. You also now have to pay $1,000 for the yoke, but would you pay $1,000 for the yoke? Probably not. So $1,000 nonetheless. $92,990, $1,390 destination charge, $250 order fee, no discount, $94,630, or a difference of $14,830 if you did indeed get that Yoke as well. It has come down that much new just in 6 months for the same exact car. Now, do keep in mind also, I had $5,600 in savings, so it's $20,000 cheaper to get this car today than it was just 6 months ago. The up to $7,500 tax credit is available for the Model X. Now, it is very select on which ones will qualify. You can only get a color option. No other options can be added. Even the Yoke, even if the Yoke was $250 still, you cannot add a single option other than paint color. So you get a 5-seat, $79,990 car, no other options. That leaves you with $79,990 plus $1,390 for destination charge, $250 for order fee, and then that $7,500 tax credit, leaving you at $74,130. Now, comparing that car to the same car I have in today's price, it's about $20,000 difference, but there's only $13,000 in options added. That's how big of a deal it is to get the base 5-passenger Model X. It adds another $7,500 to the discount on this car, which is pretty incredible. Now, just recently, I published a video exploring the question of, is the Model X worth it given these new prices? And one of the things that I talk about in that video is maintenance costs and maintenance overall. This vehicle is super complicated and it does require substantially more maintenance than a Model 3 or Model Y. The Model 3 and Model Y are pretty bulletproof, and although there are some exceptions to that rule, it is very rare that we have an issue with our Model Ys or our Model 3s. So the Model 3, Model Y, bulletproof. This, not quite the same ball game. Now, when we took delivery on March 31st of 2023, there were a number of issues that we had to get addressed. There were some minor things where maybe a panel wasn't perfectly straight, like the trim, the plastic trim, that we had them adjust, a door or something like that. But the biggest issue we had at delivery was the paint. It was littered with scratches, but even worse than that, it actually had debris under the paint. And basically, when dust or particles land on the car before paint is applied, it's now there forever. You can't really get that out unless you repaint an entire panel, because you won't really be able to match that paint. So this was a huge disappointment and something that plagues Tesla even to this day. So regardless of what your price point is in a Tesla, you're likely to face paint issues, and it's not really changed to date. And now that we've had this vehicle for 6 months, I've actually saved up and compiled all the issues that I need the service center to take a look at. So we are looking at camera sensors alert that keeps coming on all the time. Every time I get in the car, I get this alert. The driver's seat squeaks. The passenger side Falcon door does have a rattle when I'm going down the road. I have actually had a couple of errors with the Falcon doors. Just this last week, the Falcon doors would not open all the way because the vehicle thought there was something above it. And we've also had issues with this Falcon door where it didn't stop for obstacles and actually hit our garage door. As you may or may not know, Tesla removed the ultrasonic sensors in both the Model S and the Model X, and because of this, there are some features that still to this day don't work, like the front doors won't open all the way, but the Falcon doors, they retain their sensors, and it is so that the doors can open without hitting things. So to have this happen this one time was very frustrating. It was on the first day of ownership, so I didn't really know everything that I needed to know about ensuring this doesn't happen. So keep an eye on that and make sure that this doesn't open up on obstacles. Now, of course, the car should do it all on its own and it should not open up onto obstacles, but it does from time to time open up on tree branches and things like that. Now, fortunately, we do have the entire car wrapped in PPF, so we don't have to worry about scratches from issues like this. Now, let's get on with the good, the bad, and the ugly. This car is so fast and it's so comfortable. 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds in 6,000-pound car is incredible. It's a great feeling, but what's even better about that is you get the performance characteristics of a performance vehicle. The adaptive suspension on this vehicle, the air suspension, is incredible. It is very, very good, has active dampening, and you can set the ride height, you can set the comfort. It is a very sophisticated suspension system on this car, and regardless of even the 22-inch wheels, the ride comfort on the highway is butter smooth. Adding to that comfort is, in our case, we have the 6-seat configuration, which makes it a lot more comfortable to get in and out of, and for the third row passengers to have a little bit more space back there, as the center captain's chairs do scoot forward and backward, and there's this gap in between them, giving additional legroom. Being here in Florida, there's no surprise here that I really appreciate The cooled seats in the front, they work very well. And when you precondition the car, when you're going out to it, turn the AC on your way to the car, it gets those seats nice and cool for you to keep you comfortable. Now, yes, we have fantastic storage space in this car. The sub trunk is huge. The frunk is huge. The car in its own is huge. The seats in the back, when they're folded down, gives you a huge cargo space back there. But even when they're folded up, you still have a pretty sizable storage compartment behind that lift gate. In addition to that, finally, Hardware 4 vehicles are able to activate full self-driving. So a lot of those autonomous features that have not been working in all this time are finally able to be turned on with the Hardware 4 package. And that's not just exclusive to the Model X and S. That also includes, of course, the Model Y. All vehicles that are coming off the line do have Hardware 4. The way I explain the refreshed Model X to people when they ask about it is, you would not believe that the same company built this car as they did the previous Model X. Now, I will come back to that in the cons section, but the point is, it is a much more refined interior. Things are put together much better than the previous Model X. The premium materials feel good, and they help reduce the sounds and creaks and cracks that you would normally hear in a predominantly plastic built interior. And then finally, in my opinion, the biggest benefit of the Model X overall, if you're into traveling, is the charging speed. It is incredibly fast to charge this car. It's actually the second fastest charging Tesla, and that's only because the range on it is lower because it's so heavy, but it charges just as fast as the Model S. But from a range perspective, it would technically be slower. At 11%, this thing kicks on 250 kilowatts, and it charges 250 all the way to 33%. It charges at a very high rate of charge for a long period of time, meaning you're able to get substantial amount of charge in your vehicle for a lot less time, which on a road trip can really make a difference. Now it's time to talk about some of the not so great things. And I want to go back to the premium interior and how I made the comment that this car you would not guess was made by the same company. Although that still is true, I'm starting to get some of those rattles. The worst thing that is happening in this car right now, the driver's seat, it squeaks. When you accelerate, it squeaks. When you adjust, it squeaks. When you turn, it squeaks. It's super annoying and has been going on for some time now. And of course, we're going to get that fixed, I hope, but I have to wait a while. And I also have this rattle in the Falcon door as well. So when I'm driving down the road, you can hear something rattling, and it took me getting in the third row and sitting in the car while my wife drove to find out where this was coming from. It was actually this door is somehow rattling going down the road. The problem with all of this isn't that it just needs to be addressed. It's how long it's going to take to get addressed. I am waiting a month for my service appointment, and it's still a couple weeks away before any of this stuff is going to get addressed. I've got some warning lights that come on every time I get in the car with something with the vision system, needs a software update. They can't do it over the air. I need these rattles adjusted, and the back in the third row, the seat back has a clip that's been broken since we took delivery. I just didn't notice it till later and didn't want to deal with it until I had bigger issues to address. So all these things I have to wait a month to get addressed. And if you're used to a $100,000 car experience, you're probably not used to waiting a month just to be seen. Probably the hardest pill to swallow is depreciation. Of course, the more expensive the vehicle, the more it is going to depreciate from a dollar piece and in most cases a percentage. However, with these huge price changes from Tesla, it has absolutely tanked the value of these cars. And I bought this after several decreases as it was. So the car went down about $40,000 and I got it halfway down at the $20,000 mark roughly. So it went down another $20,000 since I've taken delivery of this, which is super frustrating, of course. But it's hard to anticipate that, and the future of electrification is going to be more affordable. So if you're worried about depreciation, just understand you are getting in early in electrification. So whatever electric car you get is going to be obsolete in some number of years down the road. Depreciation is going to happen, and it is going to happen at a faster rate at this point in time than it will down the road when the technology has matured quite a bit more than it is today. I have historically been critical of the Yoke. I am not a fan of it. It's super awkward and feels totally unnecessary. When you're on the highway, however, it is very nice because it gives you a lot more visibility. It's also pretty comfortable on the highway. And when you're going in roundabouts, it's not that great. When you're trying to park, it's kind of clumsy. But overall, I always thought it was the yoke I hated. Actually, what it turns out is it's the turn signals in the horn, which if you have the round steering wheel are in the same place as they are in the yoke. So by going to a round wheel, I would equally hate it as much as I hate the yoke. And that took some time to really figure out. I actually don't mind the yoke, but I do mind the horn location and the turn signal buttons. It is super frustrating, especially when you're in a quick moment trying to find buttons. And even now, I still struggle sometimes, only when it's high pressure, trying to find those buttons with my finger, especially the horn, and getting the right turn signal hit every time. And then finally, it's an expensive vehicle. Everything about this car is expensive. It is a high cost car. It is going to be expensive to maintain compared to the other Tesla offerings, and insurance is significantly higher. It's double than it is on our Model Y. The tires on here are more expensive, and the Falcon doors sometime are going to be out of warranty and need maintenance. All these things are very expensive, and the total cost of ownership of this vehicle is going to be substantially more than the other economy versions of Teslas in the Model 3 and the Model Y. Something to really think about, because that's a lot of money, and if you're stretching yourself to get into it, you might want to think twice. And really, it comes down to the final question. After 6 months, is it worth it? Would you do it again? I say yes, and I say no. Although I was prepared for depreciation, I was not prepared for losing that much value in the car so quickly. And every time the prices have gone down in big chunks, we've all thought this has got to be the last one. Just like now, $79,990, this has got to be the bottom. And it very well could be. But understand that there are going to be discounts to finish out a quarter. There are going to be opportunities to get a Model X even cheaper than this in the future. And that is a risk that you've really got to figure out and make sure you're prepared for at least. If you're going to buy this car, don't think you're going to have it for about a year and then sell it. That's probably not going to happen unless you're prepared to lose quite a bit of money in the process. Now, if you have the means and you want the space and you want the comfort and you want the tech, you can't go wrong with the Model X. Yes, there are going to be some pain points along the way, but it is an incredible machine and it does a lot of really cool things. It's super comfortable. It is a road trip machine and it fits your family extremely comfortably. So let me know in the comments, do you think the Model X is worth it? I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are on this, and if you have one on order, are you prepared to take delivery of yours? I really appreciate you joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.